Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Mastering Dungeons, your favorite tabletop role-playing game podcast slash stream slash vlog slash I don't know what we are, Teos, but I am Shawn Merwin, and I am here with my co-host, the ever fun-loving Teos Abadia.
I do love me some fun, Shawn. I had a giant pile of dirt in my driveway on Thursday, and it's gone because I did lots of work. My muscles hurt, but it is now level, and I saved a lot of money from stupid bids that companies gave me because I wanted them to do it for me, but I could not afford it. So I did it myself with them.
I hear that. I hear that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any exciting news about anything that I did this weekend. I tried to hibernate as much as possible in preparation for a very busy week ahead.
All right.
So, but the first step in that very busy week is talking to you. And that's great.
Love it.
It's taking questions from our listeners, who we also love. So we are going to go immediately to our listener corner. And via YouTube, we got this question from Waxis9161. I've got a question about running published adventures. I'm preparing to run Arcana Unleashed Deadfall for a group I've assembled at my local RPG club, roughly 2 to 3 hours weekly. What is most important to keep in mind when running a published adventure weekly? What are your experiences running an epic level adventure book? And what are some tough lessons you wish you'd learned earlier? So, yeah, I mean, this is
a main show here.
This is a show. So let's sum it up this way. So at this point in my role-playing game experience and my existence, the most important thing is pacing. Giving the players as a group what they want each session. And it always comes back to pacing and presentation. What does your group want? Are they fully committed to playing each session as scheduled, or could the group fall apart if a campaign doesn't deliver exactly what they want, exactly when they want it? Is it more of a social thing where people are just, they want to get together and say, how was your week? And then play. Is it more about the story? Is it more about the tactics? Is it some combination? And then based on those answers, I would then say, how am I going to pace this? Yeah. Because if players are there for the story, I want to make sure that each session I'm resolving a story element, but also opening up a story element, because that gives them the satisfaction of closing part of the story, but the mystery of opening another part, right?
Yeah.
Now, if they're there for the tactics, I want to make sure I start the session with a combat and I end the session with a combat, right? Because that's I'm going to bookend that. If they're there for social time, then I'm going to say for the first 10 minutes, hey, let's chat. Hey, Bob, how's things? Hey, Sally, how's the job going? How's the family? Right? Those sorts of things. Give them the chance to do that, then get into the game part. I'm going to stop there, Teos.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And those were things that I thought about talking about, but you said it better. When it comes to published adventure, which was one of the questions, you really have to look at the material and try to guess what they're going to do. And sometimes an adventure is linear enough that you can just go with it. Other times it's not. But at a gaming store or RPG club, assuming so you're traveling to some place, you don't want to have to haul things depending on where you want theater mind or not. But you want to be sort of prepared to run the things you want. And so I think it's important to have them understand that. Like, whenever I'm with a group, like I want them to understand my position. We'll all be better off that way. And so if they know, hey, our DM has to be prepared for next session. So at the end of a session, I want to say, what are you going to do next time? Right. And you need to stick to that plan, because that's what I'm preparing. Because I don't just have all my miniatures on a shelf. I brought something, right? And so having that conversation is just sort of knowing, like, hey, I need to know so I can prepare a good game. What are we going to do next week? Oh, we're going to go explore the, Thay Mount. Okay, great. Then we're doing that. And in terms of epic level, the big thing there that I always look at, well, two things. One is the most important part, doesn't matter what level they are, is a great experience. And as Shawn said, it might be more on the tactics side, it might be on the role playing or lore, whatever those elements are. But it transcends level usually to just be, this is cool, right? Any encounter, thinking about, is this cool? Is this exciting? and making sure that comes across, right? 4 goblins in a room, no matter how incredible those goblins are, they might be, 20th level and they breathe fire and explode when they die and whatever. That's only but so cool because they're just in a room, and that's lame, But if there are really neat things like you're crossing the lava pit to get to these epic goblins, well, now we start getting somewhere, right? So just making sure that it's going to feel like epic level at the story level. The players and their characters might tear apart everything you put in front of them. It won't matter if the rest is cool, right? Because it's like a cool movie where the hero always wins. That's okay. It's really cool. So epic level, I worry less about challenge, more about is the experience going to be awesome to the players.
Yeah.
If they really want a challenge, then that's where you'll have to do a little work, but you'll have to get to know how cheesy they are, right? How strong they are, and figure that out and how to cancel that out. And the big thing there to me is a conversation, right? The social contract of saying, hey, if you want to be challenged, then you can't all be, casting simulacrum and this, that, and the other and causing all kinds of epic level problems, because then it's like impossible for me to challenge you, or I have to go totally absurd. So let's keep it in some sort of level where it's fun for both of us.
Epic level in some ways is easier, but in some ways is harder. And what I mean by easier is if you're running an adventure at first level and you have a 1,000-foot chasm, at first level, you need to have ways for them to cross that chasm. At 20th level, you can step back and say, there's a 1,000-foot chasm you need to cross. How are you going to do it? Because you probably have 72 ways. You can teleport, you can fly, you can wish, right? You can do all of these things. So at higher levels, you can sit back and you can let them solve the problem. The issue then why it's harder is because of that pacing. Because you say solve this problem, and they may be able to solve that problem in 30 seconds, or they may have to take 7 hours to solve that problem because they need to go to the plane of fire in order to find the bridge that leads, right? Because they're coming up with the plan, not you. So there is some joy in that. I don't need to worry about how they're going to do this. They need to tell me how they're going to do it. But there's also that, what are you going to do next time? Could be a wide range of different things that they might try.
Yeah, I mean, and one of the interesting things about D&D, we're going to talk to Thomas Harenstam of Free League later in our main segment. And if you look at a game like One Ring, or even think about Lord of the Rings as just novels and movies, like, what level they are is really hard to tell. A lot of times they feel kind of much lower in level compared to Dungeons and Dragons, and the story is kind of lower generally, with a few exceptions. Gandalf's not casting 10 fireballs, right? For example.
Right.
And Legolas might be the exception in the movies. But he's always 20th level. But, it's usually kind of more down here. And so one of the fun things about D&D is that it's way up there. It is really these bizarre, crazy things. And you want to let your players do these fun, bizarre, outlandish things. Mike Shea has great advice on sort of lightning rods, right? Like creating encounters specifically where they can just blow things away. That makes the players feel really happy when they get to do that, and you can choose others to make really challenging. That can work well at high level.
We have so much news to get to that we're going to stop there. Yeah. But thank you for those, and we'll tell you later how you can send your questions to us. But in our news and commentary section, we have a brand spanking new Unearthed Arcana. And boy, is it dark. It's Underdark. It starts with Jason Tondro, who's senior game designer there, writing the following. The material in this Unearthed Arcana is rooted in the Underdark, one of D&D's most storied locations. The Underdark was first explored almost 50 years ago in the D series of adventures, Descent into the Depths, Shrine of the Kuo-toa, and Vault of the Drow. But many players today know the Underdark from sequences in Baldur's Gate 3 or the Driss novels. You will doubtless have many questions about the Underdark and Unlight, a strange and dangerous form of magic important to 2 of the subclasses you'll see here. And we will answer those questions in time. So we don't get a full explanation of what Unlight is.
Very interesting.
But we are told that the city of Deep Imaskar, home to the descendants of the ancient Imaskari Empire, lies in one of the lowest levels of the Underdark. The deep Imascari wield a magical force known as Unlight, taught to them by the, here we go, Imaskarcana, sentient grimoires penned by ancient wizard kings of the lost Imascari Empire.
Hey.
All right. Okay, we're out there.
Well, and one thing you can tell here is clearly there is some larger story of some Underdark campaign we're going to be seeing, which, I just can't help but zoom out and say, hey, we saw that product roadmap. This wasn't on it, right? So it tells you, kind of reminds us again that not only will the roadmap have surprises, but also the things on the roadmap are probably things that are fully written. Or very clear, maybe the very end of that roadmap are things that are still being worked on. Greg Bilson said the other day that Dark Sun is in like proofing stage. I said that I think 2 weeks ago. So here is a thing that's in progress, right? And so of course it's not even a thing on the roadmap. And I think that's really interesting. It clearly has some deep lore to Forgotten Realms lore here around ancient Imaskar. There was this great seal, this magical symbol that protects and illuminates the Underdark city. And that, if you think of Menzoberranzan, had a similar kind of situation with a glowing sort of light in this kind of clock tower in the center. So this is similar, but somehow the Deep Imascari used Unlight to make this, and this has changed in some way, and now it can be used to both corrupt and destroy, burning creatures from within until they die in a fire explosion of brilliant light. So, Shawn, Fezris was so 2015. The new hotness is Unlight. It's what all the kids are talking about.
That's right. And we are going to shed some Unlight on the 3 new subclasses. Yeah, that's right. Shed that Unlight on these 3 new subclasses, starting with the Path of Unlight for the Barbarian. So the concept is that the Deep Imascari have granted you, or this seal has granted you access to Unlight. And it uses that magic that you have soaked in to push outward. So the first thing we get is a table so you can pick or roll about how this Unlight manifests inside you, whether it's arcane symbols, a light blazing from your eyes and mouth, etc. So the concept, cool. I'm gonna use my fun, flavorful, and freaking balanced scale. Fun, we'll see. Flavor is heavy, right? This is some deep background in terms of why this subclass is what it is. And we'll check on the freaking balanced as we go. So at level 3, you get Radiant Rage. If a creature hits you with a melee attack while you rage, they take radiant damage equal to your rage bonus. You also shed bright light, in a 20-foot radius. I'm going to dig a little bit in here, if you don't mind, Teos.
Yeah, please.
Because this is interesting. This is super interesting to me as a game designer.
Yeah.
Because you have this thing that does damage when something hits you, which is cool. I mean, as I read through this, I would have designed this pretty much as is, right? But since I didn't design it, I step back and I start thinking about it. And I think what this says is, as the player, I don't get to decide when I do this damage. It's the dungeon master who decides if I'm going to do the attacks that do the damage to my own monsters.
Yeah.
Which is not a problem unless it is.
Right, sure.
So, if I'm dungeon mastering this for a certain group of players, I'm going to have everybody swarm the barbarian and attack them because I want this cool thing to happen. The player wants this to happen. Yeah. The game wants this to happen. So I'm going to do this.
Love it.
As I play tactically as the DM or the certain group of players, I'm like, no, I'm never going to attack the barbarian because now it's not a lot of damage, right? It's at +2 at level 1 through 8, +3 at levels 9 to 15, maybe.
Right.
And then through 4 at 16 to 20 or something along those lines. So it's not a heck of a lot of damage, but if I get 7 attacks or if I have 12 monsters surrounding you, then it does turn into a little bit more damage. So this is just a sort of a third level game design conversation that designers will have in their heads about how do I want to do this? Because you could make it a reaction.
And I can even add one other dimension, which is you could almost say, well, is the point of this then that they won't attack the barbarian? Because if you attack the barbarian, you get hurt. But the barbarian, of course, probably does want to deal this damage, because that's what the barbarian's all about, is that sort of risky life, living on the edge, reducing the damage. And so it's almost like, was this going to take away from what the barbarian's trying to accomplish, because people will not attack them, right? Like, especially if you imagine, it's only melee attack, so it's not range, but when these creatures have choices of who to attack, why would you're not going to like move to take on the barbarian, right? Like you're like, that guy's causing damage already around them. But yes, that's sort of like what levels, and so it's almost like you have a conversation with your players, or as a player, you might have to have a conversation with your DM. If your DM isn't thinking like you said of like what would be fun for the player, you might want to say like, hey, I'm thinking of taking this option, but here's what I would want. That sometimes they'll all mob me and it'll be fun.
And then you take something like a sentinel feat, where if they don't attack you, you get an attack or you do damage, right? And so all of these things need to go in. And there's no one perfect answer. There are just several imperfect answers that will change whether you're talking to this audience or that audience, or this player type or that player type. Sorry, I've been talking too much. I'm gonna stop here.
Well, level 6, you get Unlight Revelation. You have proficiency and expertise and perception. And while the rage is active, you have blind sight with a range equal to your radiant rage. So very Underdark fitting that you get this blind sight thing. You can unlight with your eyes closed, I guess. Level 10 is infectious unlight, and part of the idea of the unlight is that sort of corrupting effect, so that's digging into that. Damage you deal with your brutal strike can be radiant or your normal type. Your brutal strike options in radiant is often thought of as the damage that bypasses things, so it's a little more of a good choice. Very few things resist it. Your brutal strike options now include radiant infection, which infects the target for 1 minute. They shed light in a 10-foot radius, and at the start of each of their turns, they take 1d6 radiant damage, and they make a Constitution save to end that.
Flavor-wise, this is great, right? I could just see this light coming out and this happening, and you're infecting your targets with this light, and they start glowing, and they don't know what's going on. Love it.
The funny thing to me, though, is the light thing. Like, light almost never matters in 5th edition. So it's just funny to see all this, like, 10-foot radius or whatever. Like, I don't know. Someone's got a light source that's way bigger than 10 feet. None of this is probably mattering. Like, I love the imagination that, like, if this were a novel, that it would all matter. And, suddenly everybody can see the room because all these things are infected. But, in 5th edition, usually there's just light everywhere.
Yeah. And there's also a spell called Fairy Fire. Which could have replaced maybe some of this, and just say, if you hit a target, Fairy Fire is cast upon them unless they make a save. It's an interesting look at the design process by going through these. At level 10, you also get Harbinger of Unlight, where you gain resistance to radiant damage. And then at level 14, you get Brilliant Rage. That Radiant Rage now has a 30-foot radius of light. And as a bonus action, you can deal 1d12 radiant damage and impose the blinded condition to creatures of your choice within 30 feet. It's a con save to take half damage only, and you can do this once per long rest, or you can expend a rage to restore this ability.
Yeah, that's pretty neat because, it's level 14, so blinding a bunch of foes is a big deal. The damage isn't a whole lot for your bonus action, but it's still cool.
All right. Then we get the next subclass, which is the House Agent Rogue. The concept here is that when a Menzoberranzan drow house needs a specialized tool to further its interests without arousing suspicion, it calls in a house agent, a master infiltrator capable of insinuating themselves into a target's life and striking while their target's back is turned. So there's a sidebar that says this was written for drow houses because it seems to be Underdark themed, but you could have a Duragar clan or the Zentarum or really any organization this might be, any spy type organization might be
Yeah.
able to use this.
Yeah, and we get a table where you can decide the story part of how you proved loyalty to your house, which can include uncovering an incriminating secret of another house, assassinating a powerful political figure, even turning in one of your relatives. And so it's pretty dark, and this whole rogue concept is very dark, and we have seen some, villainous options and things like that. So one of the things you have to wonder is this campaign going to be like a really dark, pun intended, campaign? Because I'll tell you what I don't love about this is it's sort of like, assassination, like real assassination, which is what this is talking about, right? You insinuate yourself into your target's life and then you just take them out. That's pretty cold. Like, we have laws against that, right? We have UN treaties against this. It's a war crime, right? Like, these are like, it's kind of weird to see this being in a heroic D&D game. And I know for some, this is like, oh, whatever, who cares? But I and some number of people are going to care that this is like at that level of fiction where it's really, it's not sort of about a fair fight. It's about really assassination in the actual sense, not the usual D&D sense is like, I'm studying it for 3 rounds, but we're having a fight, right? You're not assassinating Loth, you're fighting her,
Right.
But it's interesting.
Yeah, flavor wise, it may fit into the story of a campaign, but as we will talk about ad nauseum over the years or so when Dark Sun comes out, about what people are willing to tolerate in their campaigns and not. So it's a conversation that we will be having a lot. So maybe we should set that aside for now and look at the mechanics of this. So at level 3, you get a house insignia. You have a magical token from your sponsor that can cast spells. Friends, the cantrip, find familiar as a ritual, although the familiar must be a spider form, i.e. drow houses. At various levels, you also get other spells such as Charm Person at level 3, Suggestion at level 5, and Hypnotic Pattern at level 9. The only issue I have with this is it's based on this object. And I'm like, well, what if you lose the object? And sure enough, there's a sidebar that says, if you lose the object, your house sends you one. And I'm like, what if you make your house mad at you because you do something differently? Are you losing this ability from your subclass? Because, right, I would just rather have it, you can do this. But it's a small thing.
Well, level 3, Charming Presence. You can do the influence action as a bonus action. You gain proficiency in a skill. And level 9 is Backstab. Advantage on attack rolls against creatures within 5 feet that are friendly to you or have the charmed condition, right? So really delivering that on one hand, you're the smooth talker, convince somebody that you're friend, and then you're stabbing him in the back. So you also have the Cunning Strike option called Stunning Betrayal. Costs 46 of your sneak attack, and this applies the stunned condition until the start of your next turn, which is a darn big deal.
At level 13, you get Infiltration Partner. The creature that you get with the Find Familiar spell gains 120 feet of dark vision and has true sight out to 30 feet, which means, of course, that you have this as well. And then if your familiar gets temporary hit points equal to your rogue level.
Silver Tongue at level 13. A creature that is hostile doesn't impose disadvantage on your charisma checks to influence them. I think that's pretty cool, because if you know the influence action rules, that's pretty important. And level 17, Subtle Manipulator. You gain the Cunning Strike option Confound for 5d6 of sneak attack. The target must succeed on a Wisdom saving throw with a DC equal to your spellcasting DC, or have the Charmed condition for 1 minute. They can repeat the save when they take damage, ending the effect on a success. You can also cast the Friend spell as a bonus action. The target no longer automatically succeeds on the saving throw if it isn't a humanoid or if you're fighting it. And when the spell you cast that gives the target the charm condition ends, the target doesn't know it was charmed by you, which is neat. I like that as a story piece. One thing I would just say is, rogues were one of those classes that in 2014 were given bonus actions as a reliable part of their kit under the idea that you wanted that little extra flourish and it balanced out sort of their damage profile by doing these bonus actions similar to the monk. but it wasn't supposed to take up a lot of time or brain space. It was supposed to be this quick menu option. Which of these three things? The number of times you've said bonus action here, there's a lot going on, right? This is sort of reminds me of my bard that I play, that just like I have to write down a whole list of all my bonus actions. We talked about it in a recent show. And this is just a lot, right? This is a lot that you have to jot down for this kind of a character.
My first thought was, how many DMs and players know the actual attitudes that are a part of these rules, right?
Action.
There's friendly, indifferent, and hostile.
Yes.
And then there's the influence action. And this plays a lot with those. And that, I think that's good. I think it's good to bring that to the forefront. But it also is like, if I play this, now I'm going to have to tell my DM.
You got to use the rules. Yeah. Yeah.
Right,
because
we
a
have
lot
to go
of
by
people
these rules.
will just say like, hey, you just role play. Tell me what you're doing. I'm deciding what you're doing. Well, then you can't trigger these benefits, right? But that's the hard part about these rules, is they're really baking in this type of procedural stepwise play. And I can say from the tables I see in organized play with a lot of different DMs, the number of times someone really says take the influence action is extremely low. And so, yeah, if you're playing this character, you kind of have to talk to your DM. I'm thinking of this choice. You can actually use that.
Right. And the being able to put the charmed condition on a creature helps alleviate that a little bit. And having those things in place that say you can use friends even though it's not a humanoid. So I'm going to friend the iron golem. The iron golem is now friendly toward me, and now I'm going to kill it, which is it's cool thematically. It's cool flavor wise.
Oh yeah,
it's like I do things so it thinks I'm its friend, and now I can gack it.
Yeah. One last thing that makes me think is I'd be curious how this plays at the table, because a lot of this is sort of calling on you as the rogue to say, let me try to handle this alone. Right? There's a guard out there. Well, let me try to see if I can do this and this and then this to take them out. And the rest of the party kind of watches, because if they all just bum rush the show and start attacking too, well, then none of your benefits will work, right?
But they will. That's what this does. Yeah,
okay.
This says even though something's hostile, you can still take an influence action as a bonus action to make it friendly. And then it's sort of a different way to sneak attack.
Yeah, some of these, but some of them are also saying like, if they take damage, they get another save and so on.
Right. Yeah, it would be harder, but it would still be able to do it in combat.
Right. Yeah. What, my friend stabbing you? That doesn't mean anything.
Right. Oh, why did you do that? Wait. And then you turn around to do it. Right. It's
interesting.
Like I said, flavorful, in terms of imagining a story where that could happen. Yeah. I love making it work mechanically.
We'll see.
It's there. It's getting there. Well, the third subclass is the wizard with the subclass of Imaskarcanist. Yeah. So it's a Maskar Arcanist, a Imaskarcanist. Yeah. There we go. The concept is you have learned the secrets of Unlight, a brilliant, destructive, and infectious energy that can heal or destroy. The deep Imaskari have launched a war of conquest to bring light to every corner of the Underdark. Each Imaskarcanist must decide whether to aid the conquering army or use their power to preserve the comforting darkness of the world below. I got to stop there for a second, Teos.
Yeah, well,
take it away.
This just in, for when you read the thank yous, I heard that everybody just changed their name to Imaskarcanist. So just say that 50 times.
Imaskarcanist.
Yeah. So we get a table of options again for how you relate to this subclass. And in this case, it's how you might have learned about Unlight. It could have been a dream, discovering records, or a mind flayer gave you notes they extracted from a brain. And I think it was at this point where I thought, geez, all of these. It's that funny thing D&D has where it's like you feel like you're level 15 for your backstory before you are, when you're actually level 3. It's like, me hanging out with a mind flayer. We're like, what? I'm 3rd level. But okay. Level 3 is Unlight Adept. When you cast a spell that deals acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder, you can change the type to radiant. And dim light created by your spells is bright light instead. Good theme.
Level 3 also get Unlight Invigoration. As a bonus action, choose a willing creature within 30 feet and roll and expend 1 or 2 of your hit point dice. The target gains temps equal to your total bonus, plus your initiative modifier. So you're rolling those 1 or 2 dice, adding your initiative modifier, and that's what they get. While they last, while those temporary hit points last, the target also has advantage on strength checks and sheds bright light in a 30-foot radius.
Yeah. I mean, interesting to see hit dice, and we saw that in one of the, I think it was like a Dark Sun flavored Warlock and some others. So it's interesting.
You know where you also saw it was Sangromancy from the Grim Hollow campaign guide.
Love it.
And I'm sure it's been used in other places.
Yeah.
And I want to say right now, young Shawn would have been like, they stole this from us. No.
No, of course.
The same design, there's parallel design all the time.
Yep.
Do sometimes people see something and go, oh, cool, I'm going to use that? Sometimes not. And it's just a matter of, this is what we have now, and this is what we're going to work from.
Yeah, and it is interesting in the 5.5. I need to, I guess, start saying that. In that 5.5 light, it's interesting because of the way resting really seems to just be like you get all your hit dice back, and so it's less of an issue here. Yeah. But of course, being able to do this as bonus action, well, you could run out if you do this all the time.
Yeah, and what we did for the Sangromancy is that anyone can use Sangromancy, but if you are a Sangromancer, you get a pool of bonus hit dice that can only be used for using Sangromancy spells.
Love it.
So I'm wondering if there might be feats now involved with this. Yeah. That would be like, you get extra Unlight dice that you can. Yeah, anyway, cool. Go ahead.
Yeah, level 6 Unlight Restoration. It's kind of like the previous ability, but the target regains hit points equal to the total rolled on 1 to 2 hit point dice you expend. They also shed bright light in a 10-foot radius until the end of their next turn. What's interesting with wording wise, if you expend 2 hit point dice, it lets you choose to end one of several conditions on the target, but then they don't regain any hit points. So you could sort of be like, I'm going to remove this condition from you. I'll spend 2 hit point dice. You don't get any hit points back. Or I can spend 1 or 2 to just heal you. And then I think it could be a little confusing that you might think 2 hit point dice must mean that, but I'm pretty sure it's either.
I took the same away from that. Level 10, you get Secrets of Deep Imaskar. Imaskarcanist lore. Why do I always have to say that word?
I was just thinking
you can attune yourself to a magic item as a magic action. Once you use this feature, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest.
That's dope.
Yep. You also get Piercing Unlight. Your spells can ignore resistance to radiant damage. Unlight Resilience, you gain resistance to radiant damage. And Imaskar Seals, you always have the Glyph of Warding spell prepared. You can cast it once without using a spell slot or without using material components and so on.
Yeah. Level 14 is Doom of Unlight. When a creature takes radiant damage from a spell you cast, you can take a reaction to curse them with Unlight. They get a con save against your spell save DC. If they fail, they get a curse, which does a bunch of things. They emit bright light in a 20-foot radius. Attack rolls against them have advantage. At the start of their turn, they take radiant damage equal to your character level. If they hit another creature with a melee attack roll, the target can repeat the save to end of the curse. So basically, sort of like, they have a way of getting rid of it by attacking. If reduced to 0 hit points, that target explodes, dealing a number of d8s in damage equal to half your character level as a 10-foot emanation. And you can do this once per long rest or expend a level 6+ spell slot. And I just find like, man, that's just a long list of things, Shawn. Like, can we tighten this pup up so that it's simpler? Yeah. I also don't know that a level 6 spell slot is worth this much. But
you left one thing out, I think, that had me scratching my head.
Yeah. From
the list. The target has advantage on strength checks and melee attack rolls.
Wait, what? Oh, do they?
Yeah. Look at level 14, Doom of Unlight, 4th bullet down.
Okay.
And so you're doing damage to them, right? Attacks against them have advantage, but they also have advantage on attacks that use strength or any melee attack rolls. So you're giving them a bonus while you're also cursing them, which for me is like for part of me is like that's cool.
I wonder if that was just leftover copy paste from the previous one, or that just seems so weird.
That's a good question.
Huh. That is bizarre because I didn't even copy that one over into our show notes because my brain clearly filtered that out.
Right.
That is bizarre.
So that's why I'm wondering.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I probably assumed I had copy pasted it or something like that, and I took it out. Yeah, that'll be interesting to ask about. Yeah.
Yeah, and that explosion too can be like, oh well, he's cursed. They're cursed, but when they blow up, it's going to damage everyone, including you.
Well,
you're going to be resistant to it, but still,
it's great to have advantage against them. That's definitely great. But radiant damage to your character level. I don't know, but I'm giving up a level 6 spell slot if I want to do it again. I don't think I would. But anyway, we'll see what happens with that one. I would like to see that one change a bit. The next thing we get, Shawn, so 3 subclasses. Now we get a feat. And we definitely get Baldur's Gate 3 here, Path of Ceremorphosis, and then they say it as well. This feat comes with a reason for you to not be quickly transforming into a mind flayer. And in fact, we get a table of reasons like your deity blessed you, interference from a devil, or your personality is so awful that it interferes with the elder brain. I like that one a lot. That's hits close to home, but it's great. And so we get this chain of feats that are meant to create that sort of concept.
Yep. So we start with the Tadpole Host feat, which you can take starting at 4th level. And you get a +1 to intelligence to a max of 20. You learn the Mind Sliver cantrip, which uses your intelligence. You also get psychic or psionic energy dice. You get a number of dice equal to your proficiency bonus, and it starts out as a D6. Mm-hmm. Feats in this path will also use these dice, and they may change those dice. You regain all uses of dice, of these psionic energy dice, after a completion of a long rest. You also get the ability to psionically overload. So whenever you deal psychic damage, you can expend a psionic energy die to deal extra damage. So that would include your Mind Sliver, but may also include other things from your class or other abilities.
Yeah, what I thought was interesting is that, like the Scion uses these psionic energy dice and some of the other classes, these are kept separately. A separate little pool of these, which I thought was interesting. So then we get these different feats, and Illithid Thrallmaker. Here you get to choose whether it's your int or charisma that go up by 1. All of the things are, max of 20. Sonic energy dice are now D8s. You get telepathy range 10 foot or 10 further than you already have if you already have telepathy. And then we get the benefit. And you'll sort of see that in a number of these feats. They have those sort of like, choose from this ability score, D8 sonic energy dice, telepathy range increase. And then we get the thing. And the thing is persuasive presence. You always have charm person prepared using your int. You can cast without expending a spell slot by expending a psionic energy die. And when you do so, the target subtracts the die resulting from their saving throw. So we saw this in a previous Unearthed Arcana with energy dice. Spending the energy dice gives you some benefit. In this case, it's that charm person spell will make their saving throw less likely to succeed.
Mm-hmm. The next one, which is sort of parallel to the previous, is Tadpole's Safeguard, where you can go, your con or your int can go up 1. Your psi dice become D8s. The telepathy increases by 10 feet. But the real ability is the Warding Backlash, where you always have shield prepared using intelligence. You can cast it without expending a spell slot by using your die. And if the triggering attack misses, the attacker takes that die in psychic damage as there's this backlash.
Okay. Ulitharid's Might. Here it's strength, dex, or con that can get a +1. The D8 psi dice, telepathy plus 10 feet, and 2 long tentacles sprout from around your mouth. You can use them to make an unarmed strike, and your reach increases by 5 feet. That's hilarious.
Mm-hmm. Or you get now, if you've gone all this way, at level 12, you need to have at least 2 of the previous feats. You can become fully mind flayered. Uh, so full Ceremorphosis is the prerequisite of level 12 or at least 2 feats, +1 to your intelligence. Side dice become D10s. You become an aberration as a creature type. And then you get to choose a benefit from the list, including seeking tentacles, which you can imagine what that does. Mind Flayer spells, detect thoughts, levitate, mind blast, and so on. And then you can take the feat more than once to gain those different specializations.
I mean, this is great. It again makes me wonder, all right, what plans do we have for some villainous campaign? Because, this is getting into the, I don't know that I'm a hero, or at least it very much facilitates a not being a hero kind of campaign. So I'm curious, I think we're all getting curious as to where that's headed. Dark Sun Dark Sun Maturity, the game seems to have something else in mind that is along those lines. So we'll see where that goes. I would never play this. I'm not the kind of player who wants to use these kinds of options. And I have really good players in my home campaign now. So I guess if one of them was like, I totally want to do this, like, okay, let's figure out a way to do it. But to me, Baldur's Gate 3 as a video game sets up an excellent premise by which you, regardless of whether you're heroic or anti-heroic, are dealing with this and confronting it. Mm-hmm. Tossing that into the character options of one character at the table, I don't know that it, how am I going to, it feels like work to me to properly spotlight this player. Makes sense?
It makes total sense because I've been through this before. Because the reason I joined Ghostfire Gaming was they had transformations in those books. Mm-hmm. And there was how do we do them? Do we make them feats? Mm-hmm. We were going to make them feats, but then we didn't want players to have to use their feet for this rather than that, because it was something that happened to you. It wasn't something that you necessarily chose. Yeah. So we went with sort of lighter touches, but also with drawbacks. So it was in addition to your character. And just thinking through the process of that put me right back to those questions as I was reading this.
Well, and if everybody gets a transformation, right? If we're going to play like right now, I'm in this Curse of Strahd Dagheart campaign, which also has a transformation system separate. If we all end up with a transformation, cool. Then that we're telling different stories like that. But if one person gets a transformation and it's supposed to get a lot of spotlighting, like this chain of feats thing. Man, that's a lot to sort of try to fit into whatever your other story is at the table, and that's
I'll be interested in hearing. Well, I won't hear, but I would be interested in seeing the feedback that people give about this to see what their takes are. So
survey's not there yet, but will be. And we have a link to it in our show notes to the page that has that.
Yeah, but the survey you can take right now is a brand new D&D Beyond survey, similar to some of the previous ones where they ask you to rate wizards and D&D. So you get questions like, how do you feel about D&D? Are you likely to recommend D&D to others or D&D Beyond to others? Do you trust Wizards with Dungeons and Dragons? Do you think Wizards cares about you as a D&D player? Do you think D&D is heading in the right direction? And is Wizards of the Coast heading in the right direction? Link in our show notes to that survey where you can provide your feedback.
I'll just say very quickly, it feels like Wizards asks me, this is the second survey that kind of asks like this, and it feels like it's a big part of their brain space. And I just want to say to them, just make great products. And don't obviously violate trust. Just don't make a big giant misstep, right? Like trying to cancel the OGL. But just make great products. I don't know that this is, especially in the online space where the people most they do have their mailing list sees this, but I just don't know that you're going to get great feedback from here. At the end of the day, when you make great products, let's say at the start of 5th edition, lots of people post 4th edition were like, let's burn Wizards to the ground. What'd they do? Made great products. And those people were like, there's no way this game's going to sell well. They were either going off to their little corners to hide or actually playing because it was a great edition, a lot of fun. It was undeniable how well it was doing, right? Just make great products.
Agreed to a point. Except on business side, on marketing side, you need to know the general temperature of your audience. especially if there are other ways that you can take this information and use it, not just what the person says, but sort of where they're coming from. And I
Yeah,
I
hear you.
agree.
I
Yeah,
just don't
I
know.
agree that unfortunately, for better or for worse, Wizards is in a situation where they need to keep an eye on many different pots that are boiling. And this is just one of those pots.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't want them to base their whole
Sure.
strategy on this, but I would want them to be willing to reach out in this way to get these answers
Yeah.
and use the information in an appropriate way rather than saying, let's turn everything over and just restart our entire existence
Yeah,
because
I'm not saying that, but
randos from the internet.
it's more
Yeah.
like, you can ask this question about whether someone thinks you love them, or you could just see, are people showing up at D&D Encounters and filling up tables? Has there been an uptick at gaming stores, right? When we go to conventions, are people wanting to play those events? Because somehow what D&D 5e did in the 2014 era that was amazing was bring in a million, bring in a boatload of new players, right? Enormous, massive amounts of new people. If 75% of all people playing now started with 5e, that's right. Those are people you're not reaching by reaching in the normal ways, right? Like literally your audience is the people who can't answer this survey because they're out there somewhere and need to find you.
And it's not like they're not doing that because they're doing this.
That's true.
Yeah. And as they make decisions going forward, they can go back and they can look at the survey and they can say, in what year is it? 2026 in August, we had just done these things. We had just made this announcement. What happened? Next year, we're going to do this. We're going to do this same survey. What's the change? And again, it's not the be all and end all. It's not like,
I hear it. Yeah, there's logic to that. Yeah, if you could say, like, did the roadmap bump things? Did Gen Con bump things? Did, now they've played WoW and Dark Sun and Star Wars. Do they feel totally even better? Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm on board with that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. We agree that it's mostly useless, except when it's not.
If you do it that way, I love it.
Yeah. What's not useless is the D&D Encounters page because it has been updated to talk about the new season coming. You can go to that page, which is dndbeyond.com/en/dnd-encounters and see what's up with the celebration event called Stolen Spirits that will feature play from 1 to 4 groups working toward a collective goal playable in 3 hours, and then the 4 D&D Encounters weekly play sessions that follow set in the nation of Rashomon, continuing the adventure set up during the celebration event, including 6 quick play maps for use on D&D Beyond's virtual tabletop. There's also a link to the pre-gens that are going to be used there and a QR code that will take you to the Dungeon Master's actual play, which should be wrapping up its season shortly.
Wow. I've been so busy, I haven't even watched one of those episodes, and I can't believe it's already ending, but that's how quickly these seasons can fly. I also don't know if we're going to get on our show, like we did last time, a preview of the Encounters season. I would love to be able to show that off. We'll see. I have to reach out to our contact again.
Yeah, I should get a copy at some point and see see what it looks like.
I think you're just going to get a big piece of paper that says Imaskar on it, and you're going to have
Imaskarcanist. Yes. Also, we got an update on the D&D Beyond roadmap, and this article had a lot, and I only had 8 minutes left to do this.
Well, so, Shawn, here's what I'll say. This is all stuff that's coming in the future, and I'll tell you what I like from a big perspective, right? There are some neat things they're doing that are quality of life, like inside of maps, you will be able to keep notes, what they call scene prep, and you'll be able to upload your own images and make them like a token or whatever. That's all great stuff, but also they're doing things, they say, to better support DMs outside of maps with the tools that you've been seeing for maps. And that's exactly the kind of feedback that I would give them. I love that. They're also saying a refresh of the encounter builder. Previously, they had said something, the wording was something like, you either use the old encounter builder for 2014, or if you want 5.5, well, then you use maps. And I'm like, what? And so we're going to get a refresh of the encounter builder. I love that. I think that's really great way to get people to be like on D&D Beyond, but at the table still. And they had an interesting quote there. Most players prefer to play in person, but still rely on a combination of digital and analog tools to do so. So I like that they're thinking that way.
For sure. For sure. There's a lot of cool stuff. And what I took away from all this was they're moving forward with the things that have already been updated or that they've been working on new stuff. Yep. People are like, well, why haven't you fixed when I cast a spell that uses a hit die? It doesn't, right? And that's on old code. And that is much, much, much more difficult to fix than something that you already have new code for that you can just work forward from. And I think both of these are going to be worked on. It's just the speed at which they can be worked on is going to change. So that's where we stand.
You know what else I love, Shawn?
What's that?
Seeing crows in our creator corner already meet its funding goal. From the mind of James Intricasso and the MCDDM team comes Crow's Fortune or Death. And that backer kit, has met its goal and continues to rise. It provides dungeon crawling that is lethal and fun with straightforward rules. Track and inventory, wounds, and light is actually tense and interesting. Doesn't feel like accounting. Your survival depends on it. But you also get things like building up your village. And so you have until September 5th to get in on that action on backer kit. We've both played it. It's fantastic. And we love everything James touches.
Oh yeah, my wife and I played it at Gamehole Con last year. We both had a great time. My character died horribly and amazingly funny way, and we like that. We also like amazing adversaries and environments for Daggerheart. The CZRPG has a crowdfunder going on that provides 8 drop-in locations with their lore, 7 standalone environments per location, each with 1 or more maps, scaling for Daggerheart's tiers 1 to 4. Optional overarching plots and a final plot encounter with a map, and a total of 56 environments, 64 maps, and over 100 adversaries. You can get a free 36-page preview for the Sky Isles, and you have until September 18th to back the project. Link in our show notes to the CZRPG product.
And if all you do is check that out and click on that free preview, you'll have a cool thing for Daggerheart, but I think you'll also probably go, yeah, I want this. So check it out.
So we've got all that news, but now we are going to talk to CEO, yes, Chief Executive Officer of Free League Publishing, Thomas Herenstam, about Free League, about the company, about the work that they do, all the games that they've published, and it's a great conversation, so hang in there for that.